Hello, this is Rich. Welcome to the fourth part on how to create a flow node in CryEngine C++. We left off by actually sending in the player input class our event to all the entities in the system that we've spawned our mine. We've also set up our catching mechanism to catch. But there are a few more things that we do need. Every node needs to have a couple of functions overridden for it to work, namely the clone, get configuration, get memory usage, process event, and possibly serialize if you want. So what we're going to do is go to the CFlow base node class, CFlow base node internal, and then we're going to go to the iFlow node class, the very base, the iFlow node. And here's what we're going to do. We need the process event, the get configuration, get memory usage, and the clone. So we'll grab all these here. Go back to our class and add them here. So we need the clone here. And add a definition. We need to get configuration, and this is probably the most important, get configuration. We do not need serialize XML, and we can optionally use serialize. Well, it is kind of needed if you want to save your flow graph. It will initialize the serialize function, which will allow you to save and load existing data. The process event is also very important. And we'll do a short description of each one. So the clone happens whenever you actually copy and paste your new node in FlowGraph, and we need to override this because our class is instance. We need to return a new instance. So return new CFlow mine listener, and we'll pass in the p activation info because we do need, the class does need the activation info to spawn. Beautiful. Under get configuration, now this is where we actually set up our ports, how many input ports, how many output ports, and what category our node should be in. Is it approved? Is it advanced? Is it for only debug purposes only? So our node doesn't really need an input. It just listens to entity events and then outputs. The output says, hey, a mine was placed. Also, here's the entity that placed the mine, and here's the entity of the mine. Okay, so here's how you do that. We don't need any inputs, and the input section is exactly the same as the output, but we're not going to use input. So we'll go ahead and add a static, very important, static, constant, output port config, outputs, and it's an array. We can go ahead and initialize the array with a few outputs, and this is how we create outputs. So we go output port config, and then the type we want. Well, the first one is just going to be a trigger. It doesn't need to send any data out of it, so it could be a void. It's just a trigger saying, hey, something was placed. So it's just going to be void. So we'll use the config underscore void. And then the name of the port, what's the name of the port here? And we're going to be mine placed. Remember, no spaces in the name. Then we're going to have the help description. So when you hover over the port, what is the context pop-up? What is it going to say there? Well, I'll give it a little description here. We use the macro underscore help to define that. And we're going to write triggered when mine is placed. Triggered when a mine is placed. Go ahead and add a comma. Next port, we're going to add one, output port config. But this time, we're going to be sending an entity ID out. And this is going to be of the entity that placed the mine. So we'll add, this port's going to be of entity ID type. The name of it is going to be, we'll do placer. It's a placer. And for the help text, when we hover over the port, we're going to go ahead and simply the entity ID of the entity that placed the mine. Wonderful. The next one, another output port config, is also going to be entity ID, but that's going to be the actual entity ID of the mine. And it's going to be the mine. And the help text is going to be the entity ID of the mine that was placed. Absolutely beautiful. We've done creating our output ports, but now we need to set them. Now, when we get to configuration, it passes in the config. So all we need to do is tell that the config, the P output ports equals outputs. And we're going to set the category. And the category is eFlow node flags approved. We're going to say this is an approved node. We also can set the description. So when you hover over the actual node, what will it say? We'll just give it a nice description here. Listens for mines to be placed. And optionally, if your flow node targets an entity, remember nodes have a slot that you put entities in? You need to, if you want that feature, you need to, under flags, add a flag that says we target an entity. Now we'll add that entity slot to your nodes. Thank you very much. Hope you enjoyed. In the next part, we're going to continue adding the game logic for our node. See you later.